Hey everyone, Emmet here. I know it's been a long time. Sorry for the radio silence over the past, 2 months? Honestly, life has been pretty hectic. Many things has happened. You can see we're in the middle of winter now. I have changed offices completely. And this is honestly one of the smaller changes that I've had in the past couple of months. Um, so, actually, despite not talking about it, I have been working on Phil over the past couple of months very, very hard. In fact, one of the reasons I haven't been vlogging as much is because I wanted to focus whatever time I did have on making games. It might not look like it, but making these vlogs does take a bit of time. So I really wanted to focus on making games, and honestly, because it takes so long, I figured that I'd scale back a little the amount of vlogs that I make. Maybe try and make a vlog every month, every 2 months, something like that. We'll see. Um, well, the good news is that I am completely done with Phil. It's out, it's working, it's great. Please go to the Google Play Store and try it out. You can see the link in the description below. What's really great about this time around the development of this game is that I've actually had enough time, because I was focusing on it full time, to not only create the base game but also create the stretch goals. So I've added endless mode, I've added Zen mode. We'll touch on them later on, but yeah, I really got to make this extra level of polish for the game, and I'm really really proud of it. So please check it out when you can. Um, Honestly, as I said, it's been so long since we last spoke. I've made so many changes to the game. I've developed so many things. So I just picked a couple of small things to touch on, as to not make this video take like 3 hours. Um, the first is ad mediation. If you recall, last time I did a vlog like this, I talked a little bit about ad mediation and how it's the way of the future, and how it's pretty much the best way you could monetize your games if you want to go with ads rather than ad like a classic ad network. And since then, I've actually got to implement ad mediation in my games. After doing all of that, I can safely say that I was a bit quick there, to jump the gun. It's good. It's very good, but it's not for everyone, and I'll talk about why. Um, Basically, ad mediation requires a lot of work. We're talking about after integrating whatever mediation platform you're using. In my case, I was using Google AdMob. You actually have to integrate with each ad network, and that's not a drag and drop system. It's not easy. You need to make an account, configure it, make all the ads there that you want to have. You need to install the SDK into your game and integrate it with AdMob, and make sure that in the game, in terms of a script, you call all the necessary function methods in order to actually get it to work. Then you have to go to the mediation platform and configure it there as well. It's a lot of work. Honestly, the whole mediation process thing, it took me 2 to 3 weeks, I would say, in total, which is a lot longer than just integrating something like Unity Ads would take you. Unity Ads would probably take you something closer to a day to set up in your game. So that's definitely something that you should think about if you're making a game. In my case, I really, really wanted this game to be monetized as best as possible, and I thankfully had the time to put in to make mediation happen. But it's definitely not for everyone. If you don't have that time, if you don't have the patience to deal with it, or with the complexity of mediation, I'd not worry about it. Um, let's see what else. Oh, okay. So in the final version of Phil, I actually did include an alternative control scheme, the drag and release controls. So in a normal game, you hold down the finger, and when you release it, the shape is created. While you're holding it down, the shape grows slowly over time. The drag and release controls are a different breed altogether. Basically, hold your finger down, and then as you stretch and move your finger, it stretches and rotates the shape that you're creating. So essentially, it feels very different, and the main advantage it has over the classic controls, the hold controls, is that you actually don't have your finger over the point where you're creating the shape. You have it around it. and it makes it a bit easier to track damage balls, to understand what you're creating if you're creating something. Um, I've added this control scheme because some of the players in my closed beta test were saying that it was very difficult to play while you're covering the shape. And that's an issue most players didn't encounter, but for the people who it did affect, it affected them greatly. The game was practically unplayable. And yeah, I'm very glad I got to implement this new control scheme, which might make the game easier for them. And if you recall, this is a control scheme I've actually experimented with and decided to not use a while back. And doing it back then really helped me make it now. Like setting this up nowadays only took me like a day or two, whereas if I had to start from scratch, it would have taken me something like closer to a week maybe. Um, and that just really goes to show that you never know what work you did in the past might come back to be relevant at some point in the future. So it's very good to keep everything organized and neat, so you can always go back to it if you need to. So something I've added to my game, something small, nice, cute little thing. In each level, you have a leaderboard per level, so you can see how well you did in comparison to other people online. Very small feature. But as it turns out, this was the most time-consuming thing I've made in the entire game. Like, more than the base mechanics, more than the 100 levels I made, this was the thing that took the most time from me. And the reason is that just the systems around it just did not play well with one another. Basically, there were two principles that together made this very complex and hard for me. The first is that I needed a system that was secure. It wasn't enough to make, some form of online leaderboard, whatever. It needed to be secure. Because I do want this game to reach a bunch of people. And if the game is insecure, if a hacker can go and hack into the database and post data there, which is then downloaded by other players, essentially your all the player base of the game will be susceptible to terrible things. Hacking and malicious viruses and stuff like that. So it's very important for me to make a secure system that uses a form of authentication where each person has a limited amount of things they can do. And the second thing that made it very complex was that on top of that, I needed something that was very light in terms of the packages. My project was getting very bloated in terms of all the different SDKs I was using, because I was using mediation, and mediation uses a variety of SDKs per network and a bunch of other stuff. And I won't get too much into the nitty gritty of it, but basically, because of the way Unity compiles it into a project for Android, there were some technical limitations there. I couldn't just have all the packages I wanted. At least if I did, I had to do a lot of crazy bypasses. And that took a lot of time and effort from me. It made me really want to try and steer clear from packages. And eventually I found a way to use a package in a way that doesn't break my game, but it took a lot of work. What I ended up using in the end was Google Firebase, specifically their real-time database. It's a great solution. It integrates with Unity pretty well. It integrates very well with Google, Google Play Services, so you can authenticate using that, which is what I did. I'm not going to say it's the easiest thing to use, because I've used in the past simpler solutions, but for my specifications, which were having something that runs on mobile pretty well and having something that's very secure, it definitely fit the bill. So I would suggest that if that is something you're looking into, check out Google Firebase and making online leaderboards using that. Last but not least, let's talk about Endless Mode and Zen Mode. So these are both stretch goals. They were stretch goals. They were things that when I originally conceptualized the game, I said it would be really cool to have, but I didn't actually think I'd have enough time to make them. Because when making games, a lot of the time, you don't actually have enough time to make everything you want. But in this case, I did. And they're both very, very cool. In Endless Mode, you basically test your limits and see how well you can play the game. The levels get progressively harder until it's like a crazy level of difficulty. And it's very cool. And in Zen Mode, it's a completely different breed. You basically just play it. There's no difficulty. It's just about the therapeutic feeling of filling up shapes and creating nice little canvases with different like gradients of colors. It's very cool. It's very nice. So it's like a calm version of the game essentially. And what was very cool about making these things, not only that I got to make them, but that making them didn't take me a long time at all. Each mode took me about 2 or 3 days, which is very, very little time in comparison to the amount of time it took me to make the original game. And the reason was that I didn't have to start from scratch. I already had the project there, or already set up. I have designed the game in a way that a lot of my code was reusable. Basically, I made my systems quite independent of one another, and that allowed me to very easily remove, like, I don't know, the level mechanics from the normal game, and then throw in, like, endless modes level mechanics instead. Something like that. So that was very cool, and I was very happy I got to do that. In general, sorry for talking so long, thanks for bearing with me. Um, Phil was really fun to make, and I don't know if it'll be profitable, but regardless, it was a very fun experience. It is important to note it took me much, much longer than I thought it would. Originally, I thought Phil was going to be a month or two of work, and it's been, I don't know, what, I think it's been half a year already since I started, which is pretty crazy. So yeah. Um, One final thing is that I have some good news and some bad news. The good news are that after looking for it for a while, I finally found a full-time Unity developer job in a game studio. So soon I'll be starting to work there in the team. I'm not gonna name the studio which I'm gonna be working in for now. Keep it anonymous, unrelated to this. But the studio looks very cool. I've played their games, and they're actually fun, and that's pretty amazing because there are a lot of game studios out there, but when at the end of the day, your job is to make money. Not all games are necessarily good. Not all of them are necessarily fun. Some of them are just the right blend to cash grab, but these aren't games like that. These are actually interesting, fun games. I've had a lot of fun playing them, so that's really cool. Um, so yeah, I'm just really happy I can do this as a full time job now. That all these skills that I've acquired by developing these games on my own, they'll come to use, and I'll be able to make games with them. So that's great. The bad news are that because I'll be moving on to making games full time, I won't really have a lot of time anymore to create games on my own. If I do, definitely not in the pace that I've been making them until now. So for now, I'm gonna put EmmetGames on hiatus, including these vlogs. I am probably not gonna work on stuff in my free time. If I am, I don't know if I'll post about it. Of course, this is temporary just because I'm adjusting to a new job, and because I don't know what challenges it will bring. But if I see in the near future, that I'll actually have time for it and to continue making games, I'll keep up with it. I'll like games on my own, of course. I'll continue doing it, and I'll be very happy to. So, thank you so much for staying with me on this journey the past couple of years. All the games I've made, playing them, sharing them, giving me feedback. I really, really appreciate it. Hopefully, it won't be too long until we see each other again, and I'll continue making indie games. But that's it for now. Thank you so much, and have a good now. See ya.